This call is now being recorded.
So in this class, we will continue with photovoltaic sensors and what exactly is photovoltaic effect. So this photovoltaic effect already we have studied, or the basic principle we know, we have discussed this. So basically what happens in some semiconducting materials, whenever there is a light falling onto the semiconducting material, basically the semiconductors work when the energy is provided to them and the charge carriers from the valence to conduction band, when they are given energy or supplied with some energy, they jump into conduction band and start conducting, which were earlier not conducting in the room. So at room temperature, their conductivity is semiconducting type. This energy can be provided in case of our regular PN junctions. We give voltage. So this energy is provided to them by applying the potential difference. And there are some cases where the light energy is given to these charge carriers, and they, after gaining that required photonic energy, they jump into conduction band and start conducting. So this is the basic principle in any semiconductors. So energy can be given by any means, either by applying voltage or by light in case of your photovoltaic effect. So with that understanding, we will continue here. So when a p-doped semiconductor, so p-doped semiconductor, we know it is basically by the acceptor atoms, comes in contact with an n-doped semiconductor, that is the one which is doped with donor atoms. So because of the thermal agitation there, the electrons that go into the p region are holes, and the electrons which go or move into n region are. So basically the conduction from holes, when they move from one region to another region, you get the conducting activity. So at the junction, the recombination happens. So there they recombine with the charge carriers of the opposite side. So when the holes move from one region to another, that is from P to N, and electrons from N to P, at the center, not necessarily always at the center, depending upon their mobility and the velocity at which they are moving, because we all know that holes move at a slower rate than that of electrons because of their mass. So somewhere near the hole region or the P region, the recombination process begins. So as a result of this recombination at both sides of the contact surface, there are a very few free charge carriers left. Also, the positive ions in the N region and negative ions in the P region fix their position in the crystal structure. So understand, there are some charge carriers after moving into the opposite layer, that is the holes from P to N region when they move, and electrons from N region to P region when they move, the recombination happens. The recombination is not 100%. There will be some charge carriers which are left or which have not undergone recombination. So they produce an intense electric field. So this concept, try to understand. After the recombination, you get a immobile region at the center, but there are some oppositely charged carriers in each of the regions. The holes in the N region and electrons in the P region, and at the center you have the recombined region. So these three layers constitute electric field. So produce an intense electric field that opposes the diffusion of additional charge carriers through this potential barrier. Now when there is a charge potential generated or the potential difference generated, naturally this is going to either aid or oppose the respective electric charge carrier motion. Now the N type in the P region and or the electrons in the P region and holes in the N region, they form a conducting layer. In between them, you have the depletion region or the recombined region, which is not mobile for charge carriers, which is immobile in nature. So when sufficient number of charge carriers are present, that is more or less equal number, this produces some equilibrium state. Equal number of charge carriers on either side produces the equilibrium. So this way an equilibrium is attained between the diffusion current and the current induced by the electric field. Now there are two currents which are going to be present here. One, due to the motion of the charge carriers in the earlier phase, and second, due to this electric field which is produced. So by placing an external ohmic connection on each semiconductor, no voltage difference is detected because the internal difference in the potential at the junction is exactly compensated by the contact potentials in the external connections. Now what exactly it means is basically the equilibrium state which is attained, which no longer allows any potential buildup. And now if I make a connection externally through some zero resistance or through connecting leads from the P and N junctions, now what do I expect? I expect some kind of a charge or the current flow in the external circuit of the PN junction. So this is similar to our regular PN junction, only the internal reactions what are happening or the internal activities what are happening due to the fall of the light are slightly different. Now for this, we require specific material. All the P or N type material are not admissible for this, because what we need here is basically the production of high potential difference in the PN region. If high potential difference is generated, naturally this is going to drive a high amount of current or more amount of charge carrier flow. So for this, what type of material are used and where such type of activity finds application, that we need to study. So in the visible and near infrared regions. Now what exactly this wavelength is giving? Visible is, all of you know, 300 to around 650, 700 nanometer. Plus near infrared, that is 650 if I consider the red region, near infrared. So around 600 to 700 region forms this infrared. So in this visible region and near infrared regions, silicon and selenium are used. So concentrate here. Specific material, specific semiconducting material for specific wavelength production. So silicon is in the form of homojunctions, selenium in the form of selenium layer. So selenium forms this P layer covering cadmium oxide. So this is how the construction happens. You can see here, I will show you one. Yeah. See here, this is how the construction. Regular, our semiconducting PN junction action, and you can see the barrier potential generated, and the equivalent circuit also looks like this, what is shown here. Again, I will explain each of the component how they are produced. Now our regular PN junction also, you have something like this. And here you can see this is the contact layer, that is the junction layer. And when and as usual, anode, cathode, and acceptor and donor. So this is the N region and P region, and due to cross junction movement, you are getting The electrons here and the holes here plus some acceptor or holes present over here. So the photovoltaic effect, generation of an electric potential when the radiation ionizes a region, when the light falling onto it ionizes this particular area or the region, where due to this communication or the junction action, you get potential barrier developed in the P and across the P and N layers. We'll complete these points and then come back to the equivalent circuit so that you will understand that C capacitance better. Now, where they find applications? So, photovoltaic detectors are used either in applications where light intensity is measured, or in applications where light is used to sense a different quantity. So, sensors, we know, they are used basically to sense or measure different quantity only. So this is our standard definition. Now, where else you use? To measure the intensity of light. Now, where all the applications of light we find, including our biomedical applications, where the biomedical imaging for all the gastro or other issues, heart operations and all, these days, light rays are used. So whenever you have to sense the or measure the light intensity, even you might have or your family members might have undergone this LASIK operations, eye operations, where the laser rays are used. So there the intensity of light measurement is very, very crucial. Slightly if more energy is given, then there is every possibility that that portion or those cells may get completely damaged or burnt. So under such cases, it is very, very crucial. So for all such measurements, these photovoltaic detectors of the type, whatever we studied, are used. Because they are very, very sensitive. And the potential developed, this gives you an indication that how much exactly is the energy which is present in those rays. So they are used, for example, in analytical instruments such as meters. Now, flame meters, they actually are used to sense the amount of radiation, amount of heat being generated by those particular flames. So, flame photometers or colorimeter, and again the pyrometers. Other day we studied the pyrometers. So, wherever there is non-contact type intensity measurement, all such ones find applications of. In those, we find applications for these photo cells. So pulse laser monitors. This is what I was referring to when I explained about the LASIK operations. So laser energy is generated and a specific wavelength is basically lasers are single phase, single color, that is single phase, single color, that is monochrome, same phase. Zero phase difference means all the wavelengths, all the signals or all the waves which are being generated from the source are going to have the same phase difference. Because of this, the intensity is very, very high. There is no possibility of phase additions and cancellation of the signal strength. So because of that, lasers are very, very powerful and they can travel over long distances. And because they are very, very powerful, the energy content in them is very, very high. So they are used in these retina related or any eye operations where to burn few cells, they are used. The additional layer which to aging in human beings. So that is basically burnt by these laser beams. So whenever such an operation is carried out, the measurement of intensity for that particular person or the thickness of that layer, whatever is generated, that matching is very, very crucial. So the measurement of the light intensity is very crucial. For such measurements, these photo cells or photo detectors are used. And in all our optical communication systems, we require these photo cells. All the optical communications, they require light generation at one end, that is source end, and light detection at the other end. So by sensing this, how much amount and which particular wavelength is coming, on the basis of that, further circuitry is activated. In smoke detectors, see, all crucial applications, they use this. In exposure meters in photography. Now photography, if anybody is interested, you know how much this exposure, like how long the particular film or olden days is to be exposed, or even when printing, how much should be the exposure given. So this again is a crucial application to get a good quality picture. So it is required here. And in card readers, now regular card reading by the light sensing, the barcode meter or barcode reader, they are nothing but card readers. So barcode readers, again, how do they read? The code which is generated there, it is read by, again, the, might have seen all of you, like the red color light falls onto it. So again, in the near infrared or infrared region. So this band is fixed for all your card reading. So good number of applications are there for this photovoltaic effect sensors. And all the modern applications or in your mechatronic systems, these are the ones which are very commonly used. So remember all these applications and give one example for each one of them. The next one is commercial models are available consisting of matched emitter detector pair. Now, what is this emitter detector pair means? A specific wavelength being generated and the same wavelength has to be detected on the other side. So you get a matched pair. Matched pair means the source and the detector pairs are available so that there is no possibility of loss of energy. For this specific wavelength, specific detector is needed. Like our amplifiers, the audio frequency band means audio frequency amplifier only is required to amplify that signal. Similarly, if I am generating, say, red color signal means red color detector only is to be designed, that is in the specific wavelength band. Wavelength band means wavelength plus the energy range over which it can function is also fixed. So for all your visible ranges, you have matched emitter detector pair models available. So readily with the system only, some of them come there. So photovoltaic detectors offer better linearity, faster, and have lower noise than photoconductors. But they require amplification. Now, wherever you come across this word amplification requirement, there the energy level developed is very, very low. Now, when I say energy level developed is very, very low, at the other end, they are very, very sensitive also. Even for slight wavelength fall also, they detect that particular signal. So here the range of operations is very, very high, but the sensitivity level is very, very high equally. So the next one we have electrochemical sensors. Now electrochemical sensors, basically already we have studied this in electrolytic type sensor. So they are same, only thing here, one advantage of this is the current which is being generated due to this electrochemical sensors is high compared to general electrolytic type. So we have, in the earlier section, we have studied what type? Potentiometric electrochemical sensors. Whereas these are the ones which are self-generating type. Now self-generating type always, they have less amount of current being generated. So they require specific amplifier associated with them. All of them require specific amplifiers associated with them. Only then their sensitivity can be increased and the operating region or the range can also be enhanced. Here, whenever you come across this electrolytic type, so you have the same arrangement here. So one anode, one cathode, and the solvent or the basic electrolyte is a conductive type. Now in this, depending upon what type of a solvent is used or the electrolyte is used, plus what is going to be the application, on that the basic electrolytic process, slight modifications are brought into it. In some cases, the current measurement is done due to the electrolytic process. In some cases, if the potential difference is developed across the two electrolytes, then in that case, the potential is measured. So basically, it is a conducting circuit which forms with the help of the electrolyte. That's why this anode, cathode, and the electrolyte, all of them are basically conducting ones. And here you have either if due to deposition the conductivity is getting reduced, then under such cases the connecting leads are also used in some cases. Now here one specific type, that is ion selective electrodes. Now what exactly these ion selective electrodes mean? So ion selective electrodes are potentiometric sensors based on the voltage generated in the interface between the phases having different concentrations. Now when I say different concentrations, so this may be applied to measure different concentration levels. If the concentration level of this electrolyte is different, to sense that only this may be used. So that is one of the applications. And in second cases, a specific concentration level electrolyte, if it is needed for a specific application, to check that a standard voltage is produced. On the basis of this voltage produced, you can check the concentration levels. So the calibration under such cases is done in such a way that for this particular concentration, okay, this is the reference voltage which is going to be produced. Anything above is going to give you a certain amount of concentration. Anything below is going to give you a certain amount of concentration. So to check that, this sensor can be used. So ISEs are used for concentration measurement in multiple applications, where they have often replaced flame photometers. Now, flame photometer in the earlier application you have seen. So basically it measures the intensity of the flame or the heat generated. So for example, in agriculture to analyze soils and fertilizers. Now basically soil and fertilizer concentrations are very, very important in all our agricultural applications, especially in flowers, horticulture and fruit. So for this production, if you want to maintain a proper or the appropriate quality, for that the concentration of the chemicals in the soil or the fertilizer concentration in the soil, even the water level in the soil is very, very important. So to maintain that balance, these sensors can be used. So wherein which this ISEs type, that is ion selective electrode type, they select a specific ionic concentration. They are used for checking that. And in pharmacies, so where the medicines are produced, so there also the concentration level of specific chemicals is very, very crucial. Any medicine you take. So there are basically chemical based. So to check a particular concentration, say anything for throat infection and all, cefixime or something you used. So what is the concentration of level of that? Or any bacterial infection, usually ofloxacin or some medicines are used. So what is the concentration level of that chemicals which are present in that? So to monitor them and control them, these sensors are used. So in biomedical sciences and clinical laboratories, they are used. And even for blood urine analysis. Again, in the blood urine analysis, what is required is the concentration level of different chemicals. Now, if you take the regular blood report, the calcium, the iron level. So what are these basically? They are chemicals. So what is the level of them in a human body? So on the basis of that, the analysis is done. Again, in the urine analysis. So especially the diabetics and all the sugar levels are checked. So how exactly the different uric acid level, how exactly these are checked? By analyzing a specific content in them. So for these, the ion selective electrodes sensors are used. So where all you find applications, you just see chemical and food industries. Say simple your jam making industry or sauce making industry. Preservatives are added. What is the chemical level? Or even to check, say simple tomato puree, what is the acid level in that? So these are checked with the help of the sensors. And in environmental, basically our vehicle pollution testing and all. So for this kind of sensors are used where a certain level, nitrogen or oxygen or carbon monoxide levels, what are their different levels? And they are compared with the references. And on the basis of that, you get a report that it is above the normal range or below the normal range. And what measure should be taken to reduce that, you will be able to follow that. So, good number of applications starting from simple food industry, agriculture, then pharmaceutical industry or biomedical applications. So you find almost in every sphere of life sensors. The next one is solid electrolyte oxygen sensors. Now, what is solid electrolyte? Now, all of us have seen the liquid electrolyte, the solvents. Now, what are these solid electrolyte oxygen sensors? So, they rely on the influence that oxygen ions are either liberated or absorbed by a metal oxide when it comes in contact with certain elements. So it starts liberating the oxygen atom. So the solid electrolyte is basically this metal substrate, which when comes in contact with certain gases, it starts liberating the oxygen in that. So based on ions, it starts liberating. So this behaves like a electrolyte. So regular your electrolyte process where the breaking of ions and chemical reaction, and they are liberated and deposited on the either anode or cathode. So similar process happens with the help of some metal oxide. So when the metal oxide substrate comes in contact with certain gases, it starts reacting, or in other words, the oxygen starts coming out and starts reacting with the environmental chemicals which are sorry, present. So how much oxygen being liberated, on the basis of that the sensing process takes place. So oxygen molecules entering the metal oxide layer, they take two negative charges. In the sense, they create a hole in the metal oxide substrate. So oxygen molecules leaving the metal substrate set two electrons free and create a vacancy for another oxygen molecule. So when two are taken out, it creates a space for them. Hole formation process. So depending upon the concentration of the oxygen or in the oxide, how much oxygen is present, plus it is coming in contact with which type of chemicals. So on the basis of this, the reaction is either faster or slower. Now this changes the conductivity of that particular metal oxide layer. When the conductivity is changed, that changes the current, amount of current flow, or in turn, when the resistance is changed, the potential across that also keeps changing. So this change in the potential is sensed, and this sensing is used for checking the or availability or particular chemical, how much it is present in the atmosphere. So here you can check, there is a voltage or voltmeter connected, and this is the metal oxide layer. And when it comes in contact with that, here you can see some oxygen molecules are coming out and they are creating the space. So because of this, the conductivity is changing of this particular layer, hatch layer. So the potential is changing. This changed potential is sensed for sensing the presence of a specific gas. So test gas here used is PO2 twice. So this is the test gas. When O2 are liberated, so there is a vacancy for this O2. So this changes the conductivity pattern. So this is a potentiometric oxygen sensor, generates a potential difference between the electrodes on the opposite sides of a stabilized zirconia membrane. So zirconia membrane is under test. Okay, this electrochemical sensor we have already discussed this. Let me take you to the book and see. See, this completes actually our complete second unit. The first part being the resistive type and the second part being the self-generating type. In the first part, we have concentrated on the basis of how exactly the variation in the resistance by the application of external force like voltage or current, or the mechanical parameters like force, pressure, how exactly the resistance of the material is changing, and that is sensed. And this kind of application you find in all the civil engineering, mechanical engineering, or some displacement measurements, or even the IR sensors. Now in the second part, we have seen some self-generating sensors where the thermocouples or some electrolytic sensor, chemical sensors, which find lot of application in agricultural. Even the gas sensors which were used in the resistive type, and the gas sensors or the electrochemical sensors you have seen just now. So there is lot of similarity in the working, but because here without the application of any electric field, we are using them. Say your electrochemical sensor used or the study today, basically the metal oxide which comes in contact with the atmosphere, it reacts with the oxygen and then gives the potential difference. Whereas in the earlier case, we were applying certain potential to produce a particular chemical reaction, then it was used for sensing. So there is a difference in the process, how they are used. In self-generating, in no additional application of the potential difference is used. Similarly, in the LDRs and all, we were exposing, after biasing it, we were exposing them to light rays. Whereas in this case, the light rays are falling onto it and the self-generation is taking place here. So there is a distinct difference between the resistive type and self-generating type. Both find applications depending upon what is the situation and what the application demands. So in the next class, we'll start with third unit. Plus, I would like to give the brief table of all these sensors that I will share it in the Google Classroom.